It's me again for the first the country's videos again. Yeah, so I'm not gonna go what a state is again, and what the difference is between a state and a country. But yeah, so like the references that I use will be in the description as usual. Forgot the name of it then. But here we go, the first one that we do. Anyways, but like, I think it's a bit random and all at the moment. Yeah, it's like I just want to, it's like I kind of want to get it done kind of thing, as it is like a massive thing. But yeah, today the first is on Nigeria, as Nigeria may have quite a bit of history, and can be some of its roots in like early civilization of like artistry, as a kind of like the plateau kind of area around Jos. Feel free to have a go at me on how I say things in the comments below. Was a meeting point for Jos was cultural meeting point for the influences from like the upper Niger Valley, where it could be said that agriculture developed independently from as early as 5000 BC, and from Egypt by about 3000 BC, and the plateau of said people, likely the Bantu people, who later dominated kind of like the sub-Saharan Africa, were developing into more complex societies and beginning to advance to the south, and by 500 BCE the knot culture was flourishing, and like their society produced what can be considered elegant and technically accomplished terracotta heads and figures, where they were agriculturalists and making tools and weapons from iron. In due course, and in the north, staying strong state systems developed, several based on divine kingship. The people kept cattle, horses, grew cotton and cereals, and worked in fabrics, leather and iron. And it was it may have been established that they were in contact with Egypt and other North African societies, and like eventually two empires rose, the Hausa and Bakwai, began as separate states from around 100 to 1000 AD, and then Kanem Bornu from the 11th century, and they converted to Islam, traded gold, slaves, leather, salt, cloth across like the Sahara Desert, and by a large success they kept their enemies at bay. And in the southwest, the Yoruba had, before about 1000 AD, founded Ife, a small spiritual centre of Yoruba land, and the origins of Benin can be considered correct with Ife, as Benin culture produces bronze sculptures by the lost wax technique. They are naturalistic but slightly idealized heads that can be seen as elegant and delicately and beautiful, as it was regarded as a major contribution to the world's artistic heritage. And Ife itself became a victim of conquest by Oyo in the 14th century, and later Ibadan and Abu Kota. The people of South East were heavily preyed upon by slave traders from the north along the coast, and forced to abandon their settlements and move into kind of like the rainforests to the forest to evade captors. And the smuggler struggles of the Igbo people were preserved in long epics, memorized and passed down from generation to generation. And in the 15th century, the Benin began to trade with the Portuguese, selling slaves and acquiring spices, firearms, the arts of writing, and kind of Christianity. By the 18th century, the British had displaced the Portuguese as leaders of the slave trade. And a century later, in 1807, there were missionaries campaigning to end slavery had gained support, and the British Parliament, which eventually forced the British Parliament to ban the slave trade. And the Navy began patrolling the coast, arresting slavers and setting captured slaves, most of them Nigerians, in a settlement colony in Sierra Leone, which we will come to eventually. And several missionaries in Nigeria were themselves freed Nigerian slaves who converted to Christianity in Sierra Leone. And missionaries introduced medicines to control things like malaria, diseases like malaria. And new trade in palm oil also began, as the economies of the southern Nigeria became more and more powerful. The steamboats took the new culture upriver and into the forests. And in the 19th century, where there was upheaval in the north, the Fulani emirs declared a jihad or holy war against the Hausa state of Gobir and created a new empire with city-states, a common religious and judicial system of Quranic schools as the Muslim empire spread rapidly. And the Yoruba, under some pressure, drew closer to Britain, which annexed Lagos in 1861, and in 1884 the British control expanded into the creation of the Oil Rivers Protectorate, set up under treaties with the Yoruba rulers. And north, while the Igbo were conquered, by 1900 Britain had control over what is now Nigeria, as the colonial office adopted a system of indirect rule, where traditional leaders continuing in power while owing allegiance to colonial authorities. As many educated Nigerians objected to this system, since it entrenched traditional practices which in a free society would have evolved into possibly more progressive forms. However, the system prevented British settlers from dominating the economy, and Nigerian enterprise built a substantial export of trade in things like cocoa, groundnuts, leather, cotton, and vegetable oils. And in 1914, 6 Africans were brought to the Governor's Advisory Council, and in 1922, a legislative council built on 10 Africans, 4 of them being elected, and 36 Europeans were empowered to legislate in the South. And in 1947, the council's authority was extended to essentially the whole of Nigeria, and it now had 28 people from Africa, 4 elected and 17 European members. And in 1947, the Constitution also set up regional houses of assembly in the east, west and north, with a House of Chiefs in the north. And in 1951, the Constitution gave a balance of power to your average Nigerian. 1954, Nigeria would become a federation, and 1957, Eastern and Western regions gained internal self-governance, and Northern Nigeria 2 years later had the same. And elections to the Federal House of Representatives in December 1959 brought in a new government, and its first meeting in the House of New House requested full sovereignty and Nigeria independence on the 1st of October 1960. Nigeria's independence government was led by Northern People's Congress in the alliance with the National Council of Nigerian Citizens, a predominantly Igbo party, with Sir Baker Tafawa Balewa as Prime Minister, and in 1963 the country became a republic and Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe its first non-executive president. The first of several coups occurred in January 1966, and Tafawa Balewa was one of those that was killed. As Army Commander Major General Aguiyi Ironsi, headed a new administration which abolished the federation and instituted a unitary state. And in July 1966, troops from the north retaliated with another coup in which Aguiyi Ironsi was killed, and Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon assumed leadership as he restored the federal state and replaced the 4 regions with 12 states, as he included civilians in government and promised to restore democratic rule as soon as possible. In May 1967, Lieutenant Colonel, sorry if I really botched this up, Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu declared Eastern Nigeria an independent state named the Republic of Biafra, which may or may not have led to a civil war, as hostilities lasted until Biafra was defeated in January 1970, and Ojukwu went into exile as the war cost an estimated about 1 million lives. And in 1957, Gowon was deposed in a coup and replaced by Brigadier Murtala Muhammad, who reintroduced radical economic reforms, a new structure of 19 states, and a program for return to civilian rule in 4 years. However, he was assassinated in an abortive coup in 1976 as Lieutenant General Olusegun Obasanjo took over and continued his policies, and a ban on political activities was lifted in 1978, and the multi-party elections were held a year later in 1979, and Shehu Shagari of the National Party of Nigeria became executive president, re-elected in 1983. However, in 1983, a military coup to put an end to the brief period of democracy, as a new head of state, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, initiated a severe austerity program with campaigns against idleness and self-enrichment. This provoked a further coup in 1983, bringing Major General Ibrahim Babangida to power, as he repealed the most unpopular decrees, and in 1987 promised a return to civilian rule by 1992, and in 1989 2 parties were formed, the only 2 permitted. The transition to civilian rule went as far as to state assemblies in 1991, and the presidential primary elections in 1992, but would rerun a year later before the whole process was halted, as a newly created Social Democratic Party won the majority in both houses, and its leader, Chief Mashoud Abiola, was believed to be leading the president in the presidential elections, but before the results had been announced, the elections were annulled by Babangida, who shortly resigned. And for a few months, civilian chief Ernst Schalkan was head of an interim government and charged with holding further elections in 1993. But in 1993, Nigeria had yet another coup as General Sani Abacha assumed power and cancelled the scheduled return to civilian rule. They dissolved the interim national government, national and state assemblies, and the state executive councils, and the two political parties dissolved, and all political activity was banned, as you do. And in June 1994, it's that time of day where English just goes phew. Constitutional Conference, June 1994. A constitutional conference was held to devise a programme for a return to civilian rule, but it failed to reach a consensus. Shortly before it opened, Chief Abiola, on the basis of 1993 elections, proclaimed himself president. He was arrested and charged with treason, and he was held in solitary confinement, but was never brought to trial. And in March 1995, during a clampdown of alleged counter-coup, the military arrested prominent opponents to the regime and campaigners of a rapid return to democracy, including Lieutenant Generals Olusegun Obasanjo and Shehu Musa Yar'Adua. His political influence stemmed from the fact that they headed the military government, which handed power to civilian government in 1979. Obasanjo and Yar'Adua were charged with treason and sentenced to long terms of imprisonment. Shortly afterwards, in October, Abacha further postponed plans to return to democracy and announced a 3-year timetable for completing the transition by late 1998. Amid the major political tensions of this period, one of Nigeria's most famous popular writers, Ken Saro-Wiwa, leader of a campaign against the pollution in the Ogoni Island of Ogoni lands and waters by the oil industry, and 8 others were executed on the 10th of November 1995, and after Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting had opened in New Zealand. And in response, on the 11th of November, Commonwealth Heads of Government suspended Nigeria from membership of the Commonwealth for contravening the principles of the Harare Commonwealth Declaration, and called for the release of Abiola and 43 other political prisoners held at the time. And in 1996, 5 parties were registered, and local elections took place in March 1997, where the United Nigerian Congress Party, UNCP, and the Democratic Party of Nigeria, DPN, won most seats, and the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Edinburgh, United Kingdom, in October 1997, Nigeria's suspension from the Commonwealth membership was extended until 1st of October 1998, by which time the Abacha government had said it would restore democracy and civilian government if the transition program failed or was not credible. Nigeria would be expelled, and in December 1997, the UNCP gained a majority in 29 of the 36 state assemblies. By April 1998, the 5 registered political parties had adopted Abacha as a candidate of the August presidential election, although they had not publicly agreed to that stand. In the general election in the same month, a very low poll of the UNCP took the majority of the seats in the House of Representatives and the Senate, as Abacha died suddenly in June 1998, and was replaced by head of state by Chief of Defence Staff. Sorry about this. Abdul Salami Abu Bakr, who promised to return the country to civilian rule, and released 9 political prisoners, including Olusegun Obasanjo. Chief Abiola also died suddenly in July 1998. While his release from detention was still being negotiated, he was 60, and some initially suspected foul play, and international team of pathologists were called in to conduct an autopsy to confirm that he died of natural causes. And his health, however, had been adversely affected by the harsh detention conditions he was held in. So Abu Bakr dissolved the principal bodies associated with the Abacha regime's democracy program, released detainees, allowed unfettered political activity, and published new election timetable. An independent National Election Commission was set up in August 1998. As a result of the local government elections of December 1998, the People's Democratic Party (PDP) or People's Party (EPP) and the Alliance for Democracy (AD) went forward to contest the state and federal elections as PDP took 23 state governorships, APP 8 and AD 6. As the National Assembly elections, PDP won nearly 63% of seats in the House of Representatives and Senate. As the presidential elections gave PDP candidate Obasanjo a convincing victory, with 60% of the votes against 38% for the joint APP and AD candidates. Chief Naomi Faleh. As the federal elections were closely monitored by international, including some Commonwealth observers. Although the case of serious irregularities were noted, especially with the presidential poll when the turnout figures were overinflated, they were not deemed to have brought the overall results into question. And in the wake of the elections, the departing military rulers published a new constitution. When Obasanjo became president in May 1999, Nigeria's suspension from the Commonwealth was lifted. The 1999 constitution, which permitted the practice of Sharia law for consenting Muslims, opened the way for some northern states, led by Zamfara State in October 1999, to seek to implement it, and it plunged the country into some violence as Christians in the states were not convinced by assurances they would not adversely affect them. And this continued kind of like up to this day as more and more states kind of continue to adopt Sharia law. As Zamfara was the first to carry out an amputation in 2000, and Sokoto first to sentence a woman to death by stoning for adultery in 2001, but was later revoked and all that. And yeah, it's like many of us probably witnessed what has happened in recent years in Nigeria. especially if you're kind of living around there. Moving on to languages. The languages of Nigeria are classified into three broad linguistic groups: the Niger-Congo, Nilo-Saharan, and Afro-Asiatic. As a huge Niger-Congo group, so subdivided into 9 major branches, including the Coups group, spoken to the extreme southwest corner of the country, the Ajoid branch spoken in Niger Delta region, the Atlantic subgroups, which is most notably includes Fula, the extensive Buru Congo subgroup, which includes Tiv Jukud, Ido, Igbo, Ida, and many other languages of the Cross River Basin. It's like quite a lot of languages. The Nilo-Saharan subgroup is represented in Nigeria principally by Kanuri, although speakers of Bagui, Remi and Zema are also present within the country, and the Afro-Asiatic is a much larger linguistic group and comprises of Hausa, Magri and Bari among others. Be it as some people such as Fulani and Atu are represented to relatively recent immigrants, but the basis of modern linguistic research is for that the great majority of Nigerian languages, especially the Coups group, have been spoken in roughly the same location for about 4,000 years, as Hausa was an official language of the northern states from 1951 to 67, and the most widely spoken language, although English is the official language of Nigeria. In addition to English, Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, Fula, and English Creole are widely spoken, and many of them have a written form to them. Now cat's in the corner, has been sleeping there all day, pretty much. Yeah, moving on to kind of the legends part of it. So I'm going to talk about the Zuma Rock, as it stands about 725 meters or 2,379 feet tall, as it's kind of sticks out from the surrounding landscape somewhat. As it may look facial features to it, as it has kind of natural contours on the surface which can depict a face with kind of eyes, mouth, nose and eyes. As the natives of the community believe the face represents a deity of ancestral powers protecting and governing the affairs of the community. As the Gowari people may also acknowledge that the rock is maybe the gateway to the afterlife, as it is believed that when people die, their spirits go through the rock. In the rainy seasons in Nigeria, between April and October, comes with another myth surrounding the Zuma Rock, as it is reported that the apex of the rocks often catches fire, as those living nearby test fire happens to one of the deities and voodoo spells. However, scientists object to the belief, as Dr. spelled Kistso, Nagarabu, a geologist and lecturer at Nasarawa State University, notes that it's after kind of the rainfall and certain bits of rock being saturated with water come into contact with heat, and then with the main rock body, and the event as it kind of serves as a lubricating for surface, and friction can be created. Now, it's like same principles goes on to mention now is the same principles that our earliest ancestors used in making fire. Yeah, so like the fact that it was a sloppy service probably helped. Yeah, as the Zuma rockets are featured on Nigeria's 100 Naira currency banknotes, and it's twice as high as the Lulu rock in Australia. And yeah, that is Nigeria for you, and yeah, I'll see you shortly for the next one, which is Guam. So yeah, bye for now.